Of course, you all know the news. WHO formally declared the end of emergency today. That's probably the biggest COVID news we will hear in the upcoming long time. And it obviously coincides with the next Thursday, Biden's administration proposed, well, already passed ruling of ending US emergency rule as well. So I thought that it's actually sort of worthwhile talking about what does that mean in terms of practicalities, and also what it means in terms of going forward. What should we think about? Well, first of all, before I do that, there is probably a half a dozen of questions that I get every week now. When should I get a next booster? I do two things to everybody. First, I ask, when was your last COVID or the booster? And then I give everybody this link. So remember, we talked about this study. I presented it, but because I felt the study was important enough that I made the actual video. So basically, 12 months from the prior COVID booster or from active infection, whichever comes first. If you have no other risk factors and you're less than 65, you may want to consider to go longer, but I would suggest at that point, think about talking to your physician specifically. If that's me, talk to me. If you, in a particular circumstances that you're concerned because you think your immunity is not an quote unquote average and much higher risk than an average, we can also talk about it. But what that actually means, it's a very narrow group of people. It's people with uncontrolled HIV, so basically with AIDS, people who had transplant, organ transplant, and now on a strong immunosuppressants, or people who are undergoing chemotherapy treatment. It does not include certain biologic, it just includes the standard oncological treatment, or patients who just had a bone marrow transplant and they're severely immune compromised. So those are the patients who should have a very specific and different recommendations. Everybody else, I do not believe to do boosting every 6 months, how some physicians have been talking about. I don't think it's worth it. Again, if you're asking why, watch my video about this study. And that's currently still probably the best evidence we have to space the vaccinations out. You will be fine if you catch COVID, as long as you had a basic set and then either one bivalent booster or an active illness. So if you had a COVID, actual COVID, you should be fine for a year after. So other things before I answer the questions, stock up on tests if you can, because the moment 11th hits, on the 12th, you will not be able to get free kits anymore. That's for sure. So if you can do that, talk to your doctor. If you want to stock up on Paxlovid, I've been doing this for some patients. Why? If you're planning on traveling in the summer, and questions always come up on Friday night when it's the least likely for you to get the hold of your physician. At least in my practice, I'm very, very open about just writing a script for people, because you're going to travel, you're going to get sick on Friday, who knows? But it's not a bad idea to have Paxlovid sitting in your cabinet just in case. And again, because once we out of the emergency rule, we don't exactly know what will happen with insurance coverage. We expect that things will be covered, but there may be significant co-pays. There may be non-coverage by some insurance. We don't know. There's actually no good clarity as to how insurance is going to handle all this. I hope that they will handle it better than I expect, but you know, I always joke, in Russia we have this statement, you always hope for the best, and it always happens as usual. So you know, I think we have to be prepared for tons of minor and major oopses where co-pays may end up being exuberant. Some of the Paxlovid is actually quite expensive medication, but the course is short, so it's only 30 pills in total. So I don't actually know in terms of price tag out of pocket what it's going to look like come the 12th of May. So similarly, if you know you're due for the shot, go get it before the 12th. Same exact reason. Yes, it should be covered by insurance, probably without copays, but that's all probable. You don't want to deal with this if you don't have to. So I think with that, I think that's all I really wanted to bring up in terms of like how to think forward. The other things you may want to consider is if you know in terms of timing of the vaccination, let's say that you need to get next, because a lot of people are going to get next one in the fall, right? Mid to late fall. So I think by that time, the insurance world will know exactly what to do with this. They'll have time to sort of sort it all out. So it may be worthwhile if you're thinking, okay, maybe I should get vaccinated in June, July, but I don't really absolutely have to. Yeah, so then maybe give yourself another month or two for practical reasons. And I think in the summer, the risk of contracting it's going to be even lower, as a lot of people will be outside. The trend is going to be very hard to approximate. You'll understand why, because the government's going to shut down most of the tracking. So we may not have a very accurate data on the statistics of COVID. CDC is already shutting down their tracking. Hopkins shut it down months ago, I think 2 or 3 months ago. So there just could be a lot of uncertainties as to, come fall, when we would anticipate next pickup of the frequency, what that's going to look like. I think we can all guess, basically. So, all right, let's do questions. Cecilia is asking, as an eligible senior, I can report that I had my second COVID trivalent a week and a half ago with no observable side effects. I had the Moderna previously, so I requested and got the Pfizer. Very good. Thank you for update. All right, and that's the only comment I see so far. So, all right. Jennifer, I thought you recommended over 65 no. That's what I used to recommend before that study. That is correct, actually. Thank you for reminding me that. Now, after that study came out, it's pretty clear that, if you're trying to avoid an infection, you're going to have to get a booster every 4 to 8 weeks. It's impractical. And even with that, the blocking any infection, the effect was very poor, like less than 60%. But then the vaccine efficacy of protecting you against symptomatic infection weared out very, very quickly. And so, but the protection against severe COVID remained very robust, regardless whether it's a vaccine or natural immunity. And in fact, it looked like that the natural immunity protection was better than the vaccine in terms of timeline. Not the maximum protection was about the same, but it was just better time-wise. It lasted longer. That's really the only true difference in that Lancet study, if you care to watch that video. Elle put something in the chat about shift. Oh, thank you very much. That would be good. So yeah, I do think, thanks, Elle, that's actually quite important. Take a little bit of time and think through, read articles like the one he posted and other things, sort of what does it mean to you? How are you going to change your mentality? Let me give you a quick example. We sort of, as most of clinical settings in the city, starting to lose the masking requirement. I was visiting clinic in Maine over the last weekend, and they have this very wonderful note on the door, basically saying, look, we respect everybody's sovereignty. Masks are optional in this clinic, but remember, there may be patients with altered immunity. You may want to consider being polite and protective for them. And if you have symptoms, please notify us, stay home, we can offer telemedicine. It's like a very all-inclusive message. So we're gonna think about this. We have a good number of immune compromised patients in our clinic, especially cancer patients. So it's a little harder for us to decide to just end the mask requirement in the clinic. MFA continues the mask requirement as far as I know. And so we'll have to see as to what that will translate to. But I kind of want to start at least considering loosening this up. And so you need to also think about at what point you're going to wear a mask, at what point you're not. If you continue to wear a mask almost everywhere, make sure you're very comfortable with that. And I have not seen any strange situations where somebody wear a mask and most people don't. I think we're at the point where nobody cares anymore. It's sort of like whatever, although probably in some states it's less. I'm talking about our DMV area particularly. So But yeah, but think about other things, like not just what you need to stock up on, but also like, are you going to have certain trips upcoming, and some of these trips may require you to get exposed just by the nature of the travel or where you're going. So all those things, it's worth thinking a little bit and kind of figuring out, do I have enough safety net to go with me wherever I go? That's why I actually mentioned asking for Paxlovid ahead of infection. All right, let's do maybe another minute or two, and then we'll hand it over to Naheed. My decision was largely based on the fact that I have never had COVID. Right, so if you never had a COVID, you may want to do a little less than 12 months. I think that's reasonable. You know, but frankly, Cecilia, I think it's also becomes a bit of an individual. Like, I think if somebody comes to me and says, look, I had it 6 months ago and I absolutely want to get it, I'm not going to say no. I may say, I don't think you need it, but I'm still going to order it. So that would be my thought process. Oh yeah, so all the pills, it doesn't matter what says on the pill. I'm not afraid of saying it being recorded. Usually the shelf life of tablets is somewhere between 2 to 5 years, but even if after 5 years, you can just use them. Like, I never throw out antibiotics unless they're liquid. I don't care if they're sitting in my cabinet for 20 years, they're going to be 85, 90% good. You know, there was a study done, they found some World War II hidden drugs, like 85 years later, and they still had 85% efficacy. Things that are in tablet form tend to be a lot more stable. Liquids, capsules, and other forms may be a little less stable, but the tablets tend to be highly stable. So with that, we'll pass it on to Naheed. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and I'm just starting my timer so that I don't go late and I don't go over. So nice to see everybody again today. As I'm coming in, let me just share my screen. Doing things a little bit different today. Last time I came in and I did a tapping demonstration to kind of help everybody understand, you know, just a tool. I like to give tools. So just another tool on how to be able to de-stress. So today, since I've got a shorter time period, I really wanted to talk about another tool called the emotional scale and how we're going to use the emotional scale to improve our well-being. Once again, my name is Naheed Oberfeld. I'm a mindset coach. And what I really focus on is professional success. But it's the same thing. It's the emotions that lead to professional success. It's those same good emotions, positive emotions that lead to well-being. So we're just going to use the same concept. And if you have any questions along the way, just feel free to speak out. I don't really see the chat as I've got my presentation on. So first and foremost, just an introduction to the emotional scale. What is it and why is it important? As I mentioned, it's a tool, and the key word here is, how do we intentionally shift our emotions when we feel stuck? 90% of the people who come to me because they're feeling stuck in some place or the other. It could be physical stuckness, right? You've got chronic pain, there's something stuck inside of you, but it also is a lot of emotional stuckness, and the two are very related, as we now know. And a very basic question, generally speaking, why do we feel negative emotions? It's almost always because we've had past experiences that have been disappointment, fear, doubt, whatever you might consider as being disempowering. So we've got that past experience, and then we project it into the future. So it's rarely about the present tense, right? We're always either thinking about the past or we're concerned about the future. And that's why we tend to have a lot of this negative emotion. And the consequence of all of that is then we hyperfixate on only one outcome. And unfortunately, it's rarely the positive outcome. It's almost always something negative, something bad, something disastrous, right? And what that does is it creates a negative self-fulfilling pattern. What I mean by that is, how many times has something bad happened or something not gone the way that we would have liked to, and we go, here you go, this proves that, fill in the blank. You know, a really common one, and see this, if you guys relate to this, is I tell myself this all the time. I'm really bad at directions. And so when I get lost, I'm like, okay, here we go again. This just really proves that I'm really bad with directions. And I also make a joke about it. I say, if you ever come to me for directions, and I say make a left someplace, your best bet is to turn right. But here's what happens when we do that. Then when I'm in a place, when I'm driving and it's unfamiliar, I get anxious. I have all those negative emotions. And the consequence of that is then we don't do those things because we have all this fear. There are places that I really hate driving. I honestly get lost in DC with GPS. It doesn't matter almost every time. So guess what I don't do? I try really hard not to go to DC, but that's more of a reduction in my life, quality of life, right? So we have all these beliefs, for example, you may hear no good deed goes unpunished when something happens, where you've done something good and there's a negative consequence of that. So these are all those negative self-fulfilling patterns that we're constantly reinforcing. And that goes back to us not feeling really good about who we are and the lives we're living. So far, so good? Okay, so let's jump right into it. I follow a lot of different self-development gurus, whatever you want to call them. So there's a master teacher known as Abraham Hicks. And Abraham Hicks is, if you are familiar with the term, the law of attraction, they're the ones who coined the term, the law of attraction. We're not going to get into the law of attraction per se over here, but what we are going to do is use what they have created, which is called this emotional scale. And the emotional scale is, just as you can see, a list of different emotions. And according to Abraham, there's a hierarchy. And they put the ones such as joy, appreciation, freedom all the way on the top. And according to Abraham Hicks, the heaviest feelings, right? The heaviest things that we hold on to is insecurity, guilt, and unworthiness. But the way we're going to use this emotional scale is very strategic. So let's start from the first thing you want to do is you want to understand, where are you on the emotional scale? Okay, and we're going to do a demonstration after I explain this a little bit. So first thing is you got to figure out, what's my emotion over here? Articulate it. That's really important. Then we're going to do something called creating these I am and I have statements. And the purpose of the I am and I have statements is that it's going to help you move up the emotional scale. But here's what's really important. When we're feeling, someplace anger, hatred, rage, we are not likely to jump up to passion, enthusiasm, and empowerment right away. And that's what we intuitively want to be able to do. But the goal is really to move up just a little bit. And you might say, like, why the heck would I want to be in blame and discouragement? But when we do the exercise, you're going to actually recognize that there is a benefit, and you're going to start noticing it, because then it becomes a lot easier to go from number 13 to say number 8 or even number 10. And so we're going to do some exercises related to that. First, I'm going to do a demonstration, and then hopefully if there's time, I would love to actually invite some participation so we can actually do it with somebody on the call today. All right, so, we know that the emotional scale is to get ourselves up this ladder, right? And the way we're going to do it is by creating these I am and I have statements. But there's some rules for these statements. The first thing is it has to be believable. So people come to me, for example, I work a lot with professional success, and I remember a client of mine coming to me and saying, her statement was something along the lines of, like, I have truckloads of money backing into my house. And I asked her, she's, at that time she had started her new coaching business, and I asked her, well, how's that working out for you? And she says, nothing's happening. Why? Because this number 1 was not met, this first criteria. If your subconscious does not believe it, then guess what? It's not going to be of any value to you. Once again, this is why we don't go from down here to up here, because your subconscious, which is what drives your emotions, has to be on board. The second part is present tense. Even if you say, I am going to do this, it is still more present tense as opposed to in the future, at some future time, this is going to happen. We're bringing you back into present tense. Remember, one of the main reasons we have a lot of negative emotion is because we're either focused on the past and some disappointment in the past, or we're projecting that out into the future. Let's bring it back to present tense. Solutions only happen in the present tense. The other one is it has to be solutions-based. That's kind of my way of saying avoid words like less stress or less anxious. What would be the opposite? Could it be peaceful? Could it be joyful? Could it be contentment? That's what I would like you to focus on. Where's the positive part of where you want to go? And then after that, a statement that has no emotion whatsoever is not going to move you up the scale, right? So we want to have a positive emotion. And again, I'm not expecting you to go from 16 and 17, which is all the way up to at the bottom, up to 8 or 9 or 10. That's just too much of a jump in one leap. So I want you to just consider what's the next best, slightly more positive emotion. And then when you identify it, once you do the statement, and you'll understand what I mean when we do the demonstration. So then when you identify it, just stop for a minute. Give yourself the ability to integrate that, yeah, now I'm feeling this. And when you breathe that statement in, feel that statement, you breathe it in, then you're like, wow, even though I've just gone 3 steps or 2 steps above that ladder, I'm feeling a little bit better. And in that space, right, in that space, what I'm going to ask you to think about is, then what's the next best thought or the next best emotion that's coming up for you? And that's kind of how we move up the ladder. Any questions so far? Okay. So if there are, again, if you do have questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself because I don't see everybody on here with my presentation up. Okay, sorry. So let's actually get into it. So I call this emotional laddering. If you ask somebody else about it, they'll have no clue as to what that means, but that's my terminology for it. So how do we use this emotional laddering? So the first thing we're going to do is identify where on here are you? Again, a very common feeling that people come to me is when they're feeling worried or discouraged about something, okay? So that's about 13 on the scale over here. And usually it's about some unspecified future event, right? That's what they're focusing on. So we've identified where we are. So then think about the rules. So the rules are, it has to be present tense, it needs to be solutions-based, and it needs to be positive. And then after that, we're going to breathe in whatever that new emotion is, that new thought is. And then we think about, okay, where can we get to that next place? Where's that next best statement that we're going to make? All right, so far so good? So let's start with this one. Sorry, I have to move things around over here. So when you're worried, when you're down here at number 13, worry, blame, and discouragement, and there may be fear thrown in there as well. You're at this place where at the moment, you probably cannot see any way that the situation becomes better, right? Because if you did, you wouldn't be in the state of worry. So, I'm sorry, somebody's raised their hand. Sheila, you had a question. Did you want to ask your question?
Yes, and I think maybe you're going there. I was trying to figure out how do you get past the worry to get to the next, any higher level, but I think you're ready to talk about that.
Yeah, that's going to be our demonstration. Thank you. That was a good question. And let me know, I'm going to ask you afterwards whether you feel like I've helped you figure that one out. Okay, so that's important.
All right, thank you.
Sure. So when you're in that place of worry, you're not seeing that there's a possibility that there could be something else that's out there. So a really great way for me to start the statement when you create these I am and I have statements that I like to share is I'm open to the possibility that. Because now you are in a space where you still don't see the potential, You still don't know what the solution is. You don't even know if there is a solution, but you're open to the possibility that a solution might be out there. And so some of the things that I would say is I'm open to the possibility that it might not look as bad as it is, right? Maybe it looks really bad in the moment, but things somehow the other work out. And I don't even know where and when and how, but there's that possibility. Another thing that you can say is I'm open to the possibility that something will show up. So for example, we had a few conversations before we started about health challenges. And I've worked with some clients who've had children with severe health challenges. And so we worked a lot on this. I'm open to the possibility that the right resources are showing up for us, the right doctors, the right diagnosis, and anything else, the right support is showing up for us, right? And so that becomes really important. So when you're in that space now, you may not necessarily feel like something is going to change. You know, you're in worried and discouragement. Maybe you've only moved up to pessimism because we still don't know something has happened. So, but we moved up to number 9, to pessimism, maybe there could be frustration and impatience as in when is this going to happen? But the point is, you're not stuck at 13 anymore. And what I'm going to ask you to do at this step is stop and breathe. Just really allow yourself to sink into this statement. What does it look like when I think about I'm open to the possibility that things will work out? I'm open to the possibility that resources show up. And I always ask people to find that new emotion in their body. Because again, the only purpose of that is bringing you into present tense. Stop thinking about all the reasons why it didn't work out 10 years ago. What's going on today? And then when you're in that space, now you consider the next question, which is, all right, so I'm feeling, I've gone from worried to feeling pessimistic. I moved up the scale, but now what? Because you don't want to be stuck at pessimism, right? That's not what I'm trying to explain to you here. So where can we take it from there? Now you move on to that next I am statement. And I know I'm going through this a little bit fast because I would like to do a demonstration with somebody so that this way you can see it and feel it in your body yourself. So the next statement could be, I'm open to believing there could be positive outcomes, right? It's happened in the past, maybe for completely unrelated stuff. It looked like there was no solution and somehow at the 11th hour, something showed up, right? So I'm open that there could be a possibility that something could work out of this. Or you could tell yourself, things have worked out before for me. Even at the times when I didn't realize it, things have worked out for me before. So I'm open to the possibility that yes, there could be a solution for this situation. And then again, go back to breathing that in. And where does that bring you? Possibly from pessimism, it might take you up to hopefulness, right? And you guys can take a screenshot if you want of this slide, because now it's completely full. So you may not quite get to optimism. Maybe that's feeling too strong, that you're not quite there at optimism. But if you're open to the possibility that, yeah, there's that ability that things could work out. Now, all of a sudden, you are in that space of hopefulness. Okay, is that making sense? Yep, go ahead, Sheila.
How come I can't just figure out where I am in the bottom, decide where I want to be at the top, and just kind of go there? With regard to realizing that I don't want to be in the bottom, I want to be at one of these at the top, and looking at the top as the goal as to what do I need to do to get there. Can you do?
Yeah, you can definitely do that, but you don't, it's very hard to do it in the beginning. This is a muscle that you have to really learn to first exercise. The reason being is if you're in this space of unworthiness and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to use brute force and I'm going to get myself into joy and appreciation, chances are you're actually going to try to convince yourself of it as opposed to subconsciously feeling it. And there's a big difference, because if you try to pretend that everything is going well, whereas internally you don't believe that to be true, then you really haven't accomplished anything. Then you're still going to internally feel that conflict. But if you work this muscle, and then you're going to find that you can move through this ladder quite rapidly. It doesn't take you that long.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, but I do think that you can use some tools to make yourself feel, as you analyze how you feel, depending on how deep your issues are too.
Yes.
As you analyze how you feel, because some worry is irrational worry and, other kinds of things. If you analyze how you feel, I think you can come up with some strategy on how you can get up to the top, up higher. And sometimes you just tired of being at that place. You're just so sick and tired, like sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sometimes you're just so tired of being down that you figure out some strategy on how to get up. And it is a process, I think. A lot of the tools we've used over the, because I've been in this Mindful Friday for years now. And we've had a lot of tools now in the toolbox to try to figure out how to go higher. But I understand what you're saying, but I'm just thinking that at some point you just get tired of being at the bottom and you just want to kind of go to the top and figure out how to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. All of this has to start with an inner desire to be able to actually move through the emotions, because the truth is that we are stuck in certain emotions because, all right, that was my timer. We're stuck in these emotions because a part of us isn't ready to move forward. And this is when the emotions are really stuck and you're having a really hard time. Then here is another tool. When breathing doesn't work, meditation doesn't work, here's another tool that you can use to actually get yourself through that experience. So I just want to quickly go through 2 more slides and then I'm going to turn it over because my timer has kind of come up. So I wanted to just do this one more time. So remember, we're at hopefulness right now. You can do the same thing where you can say, okay, now that I'm hopeful, wow, I'm seeing the evidence of things working out. These are examples, right? This is kind of I am statements that you can use, and these are just examples. You come up with your own ones if you have things that are resonating with you. Or I'm excited about the possibility that things are working out, and I like to add this for my highest and best good. It takes a lot of pressure of me trying to figure out the best solution. Things are working out in my highest and best good. Or that I'm confident that it's resolving in the best way possible. These are things that are out of my control. I really don't know how to handle it. So I'm just handing it over and I'm saying, I am just confident that it is working out in its own way. And just by doing that, again, going to the breathing, stopping, listening to those and feeling that in your body. Right now we moved through to enthusiasm and eagerness, and maybe a little bit higher. Maybe there's, maybe there's joy and appreciation, or maybe a little lower, positive expectation and belief. But the point was, we started off at 13, and I can guarantee you that if you follow these rules, within 5 to 6 minutes, we're not talking days, weeks, and months here, it's within 5 to 6 minutes, you can start moving yourself up through this emotional scale, which is why I'm calling it emotional laddering. So just very quickly as a summary, it's a tool amongst lots of other tools to help us move our emotions when we feel stuck. And it's really about helping us getting present. That's where solutions starts. It allows us to create an opening in our thinking, because remember, we get hyper-focused on one path, usually a negative path, and that we're recognizing that even moving just 2 points up or 3 points up the scale we actually are feeling better. We may not have thought about it that way, but we really are. So I want to end over here, and I want to end with a quote, which I really like, by one of my teachers. Fear and faith ask the same thing of you, to believe in the unseen, right? Because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So which one are you going to choose? And I like that. I like to think about that during times when I'm really anxious and I feel completely out of control. So that's it for me. And if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them right now. And if not, yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Is there any particular breathing practice that you suggest for the breathing part?
I actually take 3 deep breaths in. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3. So I try to do that 3 times. But as you get used to this process, it's just I close my eyes, breathe it in, and I think about, yeah, I am open to the possibility. And it doesn't take a lot. It just takes, 1 breath or 1 statement, and I feel like I'm in that space. The cadence of 3 is something that's repeated a lot in different cultures, and I find that's helpful when you first start.
Seems like the key is that first thing of making the believable statement.
Yes. If you do not come up with a believable statement, none of the rest of it is going to work out. Yeah, absolutely right. Which is why you have to start where you are. Don't try to move up the scale too rapidly. So absolutely. Thank you.
Well,
Could you repeat?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Salome.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to frame my question. Like, for example, I might be worried about something, and I may think about it almost for 24 hours. Then I will do something that will solve that problem. And I'm like, okay, that's where it is. Is that resignation, or is that moving up on the Abraham's peaks scale? I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I understand your question, and I think it's a really good one. I would say it all depends on how you feel. So for example, if you make a decision or something happens and you feel relief in the process, then you know you've actually moved up. You actually released something. You've surrendered something, right? There's something happened in there. If on the other hand, you're doing it and you're feeling disempowered, as in you're feeling helpless afterwards, there's a hopelessness. Oh, I can't do anything about this. So this sucks, so it kind of depends on how you feel as a result of it. If you're moving down, in other words, the emotional scale, then you know that you've kind of given up. And hopelessness and helplessness is, it's around like number 15 or 16 in the emotional scale. So you actually went down. So you use an I am statement to say, okay, how can I take it up a notch?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I see that there are a few more questions, but I don't want to take up Nina's time. So I will add my responses in the chat. Is that an appropriate thing to do? Because I don't want to take up Nina's time. I know we're at 2:45.
That works perfectly.
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me again. And Nina, I turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Naheed. I loved your presentation and great segue into mindfulness, because mindfulness also gives you a way to turn towards your emotions and just recognize that you're feeling something. It may be unpleasant or pleasant, and taking your attention then to breath, body sensations can help you deal with the emotion in a, calm, kind way towards yourself. And sometimes it provides relief and sometimes it doesn't, but just turning towards it, being aware of it and not suppressing emotions really is just goes a long way towards releasing them. So I really resonate with everything you're saying, Naheed. So Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. So just segueing into the mindfulness. I'm keep cutting into somebody talking. I'm so sorry. Who is talking? Is that?
I think it's a weird echo.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna try to mute everybody. whoever-
Okay. So today we're going to do 3 short mindfulness practices. We're going to start with a mindful check-in, and then we're going to move into mindful movement. And mindful movement is really just some gentle stretching, where when you're doing the movement, you'll also be focusing on your breath sensations and your body sensations. And then we'll close with a brief body scan. So I'm going to get some movement in there, so hopefully you don't fall asleep. So let's get started with our mindful check-in. So getting into a comfortable, alert posture, taking your time to come into that mindful posture. And you can close your eyes or have a soft gaze downward. And we'll go ahead and start with a few deep calming breaths. So when I'm talking about calming breaths, what I mean by that is you inhale through the nose, you take a slight pause, and then you have a long, slow exhale out through the mouth, like you're breathing through a straw with your lips pursed. And the longer and slower you go on the exhalation, that relaxes the nervous system. So let's try that. So let's take a deep breath in through the nose. Long, slow out breath out through the mouth. Let it go. And again, breathing in through the nose. And out through the mouth, releasing. Let's do one more. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Let it all go. And returning to the natural rhythm of your own breathing. And taking a moment to getting a sense of arriving here in this moment, noticing what your experience is right now. Checking in with any thoughts, and images going through the mind. Any feelings, sensations in the body. Allowing and letting be, noticing that this is simply how it is right now. Continuing to breathe as you're noticing thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, memories, sounds. Not trying to change anything or achieve anything, just letting it all be moment to moment. And then bringing a one-pointed attention now, a very focused, single-pointed attention to your breath, either at the belly or the chest or both. And you can put your hands in one of these spots on your chest or your belly, and then just notice the rise and fall as the breath comes in and as it goes out, moment to moment. Just this breath coming in, just this breath going out. perhaps you're feeling the chest, feeling the belly rise and fall on each in and out breath. And again, not trying to change the breath in any way, just allowing and letting it be. Each breath is a new beginning. And now in the last step of this mindful check-in, expanding awareness now to get a sense of the whole body. The body as a whole, the body from the top of the head all the way down, scanning attention all the way down the body and out to the bottom of the feet. Sensing the body's posture, position, the facial expression, the hands, enveloping the entire body in awareness. Allowing and letting it be as it is. And then opening the eyes, we're going to, if they're closed, transition now into our mindful movement. So I'm inviting you to stand up. And if you don't want to stand up, that's fine too. You could remain seated, but do open your eyes. We're going to get some movement going here. Get the blood flowing. And just reminding you that in mindful movement, the emphasis is more on the awareness of the movements and the body sensations and the breath, rather than having to move in any exact certain way. We're going to be doing some gentle stretching. And so feel free at any time to honor your body's needs and move in whatever way is right for your body. So we're going to get started by sitting or standing in mountain pose, where your feet are about hip width apart, the knees are soft. And I'd like you to open up the chest, and we're going to do that by taking a deep breath in and bringing the shoulders all the way up to the ears really tight. And breathing out and letting the shoulder blades drop down the back. So you're opening up the chest. And then feeling that lift up through the crown of the head, standing tall and stable like a mountain, and also feeling deeply rooted into the ground at the base of the feet. So standing tall and stable like a mountain, taking a moment here to feel your breath, your breathing. You could put your hands on your belly or your chest if you like. Just feeling the breath coming in and going out. And then bringing your arms back down by your sides. And we're going to start by raising the arms one at a time. So inhaling, raising the right arm out to the side and then up overhead. And then looking up towards your fingertips, towards the ceiling, and stretching long as if you're trying to reach an apple that's a little bit out of reach. You're trying to pluck it. So feeling that gentle stretch in your side body, pausing, feeling that stretch, And then gently releasing and bringing the right arm down slowly by your side, feeling the movement of the arm, the sensations, pausing and just noticing how the body feels now when your right arm is back down by your side, back in mountain pose. And then again, breathing in, taking the left arm out to the side, slowly and overhead. Looking up towards the ceiling. Again, stretching up as if to pluck that fruit that's just out of reach. Deepening that stretch. And then gently releasing the effort and returning the left arm down by your side to mountain pose. And again, pausing, perhaps closing your eyes or looking downward and just noticing how the body feels now. And opening the eyes if they're closed and stretching both arms out to the sides, up overhead. Looking up towards the ceiling. Feeling that stretch. And we're going to move into side bends. So taking hold of the right wrist with the left hand, lengthening up. And then leaning over to the left in a crescent moon shape, but only go as far as you can go. Perhaps feeling that stretch in the right side body. And then bringing the arms up to center, changing sides, clasping the left wrist with the right hand, lifting up towards the ceiling, and then bending over to the right. Perhaps experiencing the stretch on the left side of the body. And then coming back to center. And then releasing, bringing both arms down slowly to your sides. Back into mountain pose, taking a pause here, checking in. And just noticing the body breathing and how the body feels right now. Simply allowing and just letting it be. Next, we're going to move into some shoulder rolls to get some stretch in the shoulders. So opening the eyes if they're closed and bringing the shoulders up towards the ears and then back and down in backward shoulder rolls movement. And you can make these shoulder rolls very small or big, whatever feels right for you, being very gentle with yourself, breathing. And then when you're ready, reversing. So bringing the shoulders up to the ears and then forward and down. And if the rolling doesn't feel right, you could even just be bringing your shoulders up to the ears and down. Whatever is feeling right for your body, breathing with it. And then coming back to neutral, to mountain pose. Again, taking a pause and checking in. Perhaps taking a moment to bring appreciation to this body that allows us to move and function. And then opening the eyes if they're closed. We're going to stretch out the neck a little bit. So start by bringing your chin gently towards your chest. So stretching out the back of the neck only as far as you can go. And then bringing the head back up to center, to neutral, and gently bringing the head back just a bit. Feeling that stretch in the front part of the neck. And then bringing the head to center. And then gently bringing the left ear down towards the left shoulder. Just stretching out the right side of the neck. Breathing. And slowly bringing your head up to center and then bringing your head down towards your right shoulder, right ear, towards the right shoulder. Breathing. And then bringing your head back up to center, back into mountain pose. Just noticing how the body feels now as you're breathing. And now we'll move into the last movement of this movement sequence, a standing or seated twist. So you want to widen your feet, step them a bit wider so they're about shoulder width apart. And then you're going to simply just twist your torso to the right while swinging your arms to the left. And then twisting to the left, swinging the arms around as well. So gently twisting and letting the arms swing very gently and naturally. Only twisting as far as is right for your body. And really just allowing yourself to let go here. Twisting, breathing, swinging. Let it go. And as you're ready, slowing down and coming back to your still position, back in mountain pose. And we'll close the meditation because I'm noticing the time has come by just taking a brief check-in once again, noticing how the body feels, feeling into the feet, the legs, the torso, front and back. Hands and the arms and the shoulders, the neck and the face, sensing the whole body from the crown of the head, scanning attention all the way down the body, now to the bottom of the feet and the toes. Sensing the whole body standing here breathing, and perhaps once again bringing that appreciation to this body. Thanking the body for all that it does. And then you can open the eyes and come back into the room as you're ready, or lift your gaze. Welcome back. So I know you're not asleep. I hope after movement you're not sleeping, but you feel refreshed. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. It's great to be here again. And I just want to mention the next MBSR 8-week program is starting on May 24th through GWCIM. And there's a free orientation next week, next Wednesday. So you can come to the orientation and learn more about what is MBSR all about, how is it structured. So I'll send those links to Janet. Thank you.
And I'll put I'll put the link right now in the chat, so if anybody wants to copy paste. Thank you, Nina, so much. This was wonderful. Janet, what are we doing next week?
Give me a second and I will look. Thank you, Nina. That was very helpful.
Absolutely.
And the hamsters on my computer are acting up, so
I think
Misha,
Naheed, we thanked Naheed, but I think she left already.
yeah, she had a patient, she had to,
Yeah.
or a client, she had to see. Okay, I have my schedule in front of me and we have you and Nina Paul
They're good.
again.
We'll see everybody next week. I haven't decided what I'm going to talk about, but we'll pick something interesting. Trust me.
Figure it out.
Thanks for the trust. All right, everybody stay safe. I think it's going to be a gorgeous weekend. So, if anybody, before you guys dissipate, if anybody is interested in